Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Father Ted Talks. Today, I want to talk about a little bit of a more complex, topic that a lot of people have asked me, but also a topic that a lot of priests discuss amongst themselves. And so this episode I have affectionately called, church hopping and priest shopping. Now, what do I mean by church hopping and priest shopping, right? So we do have a phenomenon in the Orthodox Church today, but especially this phenomenon happens in bigger communities in bigger cities where there are multiple Orthodox churches that exist, right? This doesn't really happen, obviously, in smaller cities where maybe there's only one or two Orthodox churches. But in a big city, for example, here in Toronto, where just the Greek Orthodox Church has, in the greater Toronto area, including surrounding towns, about 14 Greek Orthodox parishes, and that's not including all the other Orthodox churches, the Russians and the Serbians and the Ukrainians and the OCA and everybody else. There are a lot of Orthodox options for people to attend different churches. But just under the Greek Orthodox Church, we have 14 parishes. So, there is kind of like this shift that has happened recently, I would say, maybe in the last 15 to 20 years. Doesn't sound like a very long time, but it is, where people have kind of moved away from the concept of having a home parish. Now, what do I mean, home parish? I ask a lot of people, that come to my church that I've never met before. I say, where's your home parish? And they don't know what that means. They don't know how to answer me. And of course, a home parish is the parish, the church, the community that you grew up in maybe, or the one that you currently attend, one that would be preferable that you go to all the time or most of the time, one in which you are a steward, you contribute financially and voluntarily, and that you know the people there, that you've become enculturated into that local community, and you know your people, the people in the community, and that you contribute to that church in any way possible. When I was growing up as a little kid in the late 80s and early 90s, I went to one church, St. Nicholas, which was in Scarborough, a suburb of Toronto. And when I grew up, I only knew that church. I knew that there were other churches, but I rarely ever visited them because we had this idea that our home parish was St. Nicholas, and we always went there. I was an altar boy. I was in the youth group. I was part of the dance group. I always, went to church there on Sundays, and I knew everybody. I knew pretty much the whole congregation. I knew the elderly. I knew the middle-aged. I knew the youth. I knew the choir. I was very close to the priest, all these kind of things. And so, it was my home parish, and my family contributed to that parish, both with volunteerism, with different events, but also financially as well. And so this is the concept of having a home parish, which is the most organic thing that we can do in the Orthodox Church, right? To put down roots in one place and, grow in that one place and build a family in that one local place, and to feel that we are part of that local community, that local family. So this is the most important thing, and this is the most natural thing that Orthodox Christians could do. However, what has happened today is that a lot less and less people identify with one local parish, with one home parish, and they disconnect and they tend to, what I call is to church hop. So because there are many different options, and people don't want to get committed to any one place, and so they will go to different churches if they go to church at all. But even if they're going to church every Sunday, they tend to visit different churches all over the place. This is not necessarily forbidden or necessarily always bad. Sometimes we're called to go to another church because a family member that we know has a memorial there, and so we're visiting that parish to be there for the memorial of our relative or our friend. Or sometimes we're called to go to a church because there is a wedding, or to another church because there's a baptism. All these things are perfectly fine and they're beautiful. However, as far as the everyday, going to church, the everyday worship, we should be choosing one place and putting down roots there. So when people don't do this, there are a number of, things and consequences that happen from this. Number one is that people are disconnected from a local community, right? They don't know the people at the church which they're attending, which means that they feel a little bit like an outsider. They don't feel like they're taking ownership of that community because they're never in one place long enough to put down roots and to feel like they are responsible to help out and to contribute to that community. It is also the danger of picking parishes according to our own liking, as opposed to committing to a community with its good and its bad, and having the humility to work those things out and to still contribute even when we may not like certain individuals, or we may not like the priest, or we may not like the council, but sticking it out because this is what a family does, right? We can't choose our family members, and we have to learn through humility to love them and to accept them. In the same way, the church, which is our extended family, we should be learning humility within the church. And so if I can just see somebody I don't like, or see a priest I don't like, or see a council I don't like, and I disagree with it for whatever reason, I can just pick up and leave and go down the street to the next Orthodox church. And if I keep doing this over and over again, this is not good for me spiritually, because then I start to look at the church as almost something that I consume as a product, and I can go and choose whatever one I want based on my own likes and my own dislikes. And so this is antithetical to the Orthodox tradition and the idea of cultivating humility within ourselves, and also the idea of selfless sacrifice for other people, right? So, church hopping is definitely not a good thing, and it is a phenomenon that does happen in the bigger cities like Toronto. The other consequence is not only that there's a negative effect on the individual and on their ability to put down roots and to contribute and to become part of a local body of Christ, but it is also difficult for church leadership. Why? Because the priest, for example, he tries to learn his flock. He tries to learn about his people, their names, who they are. And less are we able to even know who's in our church on Sunday, because a lot of times almost half the congregation are people who were not there last Sunday or the Sunday before, or they're from other communities or from other jurisdictions, and they're just passing through. Almost like tourism. They're here for sacraments, or they're here for memorials, or whatever it is, but then they're gone. And so it is very, very difficult for the priest to know who they are. They just become numbers, or they just become parishioners who he doesn't know their names, and he can't help them. And so that also creates a problem for that community. It creates a problem for the boards and for the leadership of the church, even from a volunteerism point of view, and also from a financial point of view, because that is also an aspect that we should take into consideration, right? That our communities depend on the volunteerism of our parishioners, of our people, and also on the financial contributions in order to keep the church going, to pay the bills, and also to be able to help out with the various programs of the church, whether it be the Sunday school, the Greek school, the dance group, the altar boys, all the different groups, the parish council. All those programs require volunteers. They require talented people who love the church and who want to contribute to that church and be dedicated to that local church. The less people who are dedicated to a local church, and the more church hoppers we have, the more people who are floating around, means that all those people who are floating around to all these different churches, they are frequenting these churches. They are, I guess you could say, using the facilities. They are benefiting from the spiritual kind of environment that the church provides, but they are not contributing anything to those parishes, except perhaps the occasional candle that they buy or whatever else they might contribute. But though that is minuscule compared to the volunteerism that they could be giving, or the tithing that they could be giving, or any of the other things that they could be giving to a local parish. And so the more people church hop, the less they contribute to any particular parish. And this is why a lot of the parishes en masse are suffering, both from the lack of volunteerism, but also from the lack of funds, because we have more people who are not putting down roots in a specific place, but rather they are simply jumping from church to church, right? Using and kind of almost consuming, the spiritual gifts that the churches give without giving back to any particular local community, right? And so this is a problem, right? And when I say church hopping and pre-shopping, the second part, the pre-shopping, is exactly the same kind of concept. The root of it is the same cause, right? That I don't like this particular priest, and therefore I'm going to go to the other priest. I don't like that priest, I'm going to go to the other priest. And this happens, for example, when people confess. It also happens when people don't like a particular sermon, or they don't like a particular approach that a particular priest takes. And so, again, this can be problematic. Of course, there are exceptions. Of course, there are situations in which somebody needs to leave a parish, or it's not a good fit for them. But generally speaking, the parish that we grow up in, we should be dedicated to that parish. We should be loyal to that parish. I'll give you a very concrete and very personal example for myself. This is my third parish that I've been in, at Prophet Elias. I have served two other parishes before. I was at St. Demetrius in Winnipeg, and I was at St. Constantine and Helen here, actually not very far away from this church right now. And every time a priest has to leave a parish for whatever reason, is transferred by the bishop and is sent to another parish, it's always painful because you get to know your people and you get to love them and they become part of your family. And so it's painful to kind of leave them behind and to say goodbye to them and to move on and to take over a different parish. This happened when I had to leave about a year ago from my old parish and to come to this new parish. What I told my parishioners there at St. Constant Helen when I was getting ready to leave to come to Prophet Elias is I said, even though we love each other and even though a lot of you love me and I really appreciate that, I don't want anybody to leave this church and follow me to Prophet Elias. And that sounds strange because a lot of times when one priest who is liked moves to another parish, a lot of parishioners will also migrate with him because they like him, and that's natural because he's their spiritual father and they've had many years with him. I told them not to do that, that they should stay at their local parish that they have contributed to, that they have built, that they have volunteered hours and years of their lives to. They should not leave that parish just because the priest that they are connected to happens to leave. It may be painful, it may be an inconvenience, it may be something they don't want, but this is not how the church operates, right? We should not be following priests around like they're gurus. We should be dedicated to Christ and his church first. Of course, it's always nice when we have a good priest. And of course, it's always nice, for example, if we have a priest who chants nicely or does nice sermons or has a nice personality, and maybe sometimes we don't like the new priest or whatever the politics are. But part of our dedication to Christ and his church and to the local parish and to that local body of Christ is that we tough it out and we stay there and we give the new priest a chance and we love them just as much as we loved the last one. And so this is the Orthodox ethos that we should have, the Orthodox attitude. And I'm glad to say that pretty much nobody came from that parish and followed me here because I strictly told them not to, and to love the new priest who came there and to give him a helping hand and to accept him as their new pastor, as their new shepherd, and as their new father, and to kind of like do their best to embrace him and to make him feel like he's part of their community. And so to their credit, they did that. And that's a wonderful thing. That makes me very, very happy, even though it's painful to say goodbye to people that you've served for almost a decade. And so this is the way we have to think, I think personally, my personal opinion about how we think about churches, that we should connect ourselves to one place. We should give everything we have to that local church, everything we can ourselves, to take ownership of that community, to raise our children in that community, so that there are generations of families who have roots in a particular community, which gives that community a certain flavor, a certain beauty, a certain history that it would not have if simply it was a tourist destination for multiple Orthodox Christians who just come in one day and are gone tomorrow, and there's nobody left behind to sweep the church. There's nobody left behind to pay the bills. There's nobody left behind to run the programs, right? This is where we're going if we continue to church hop or priest shop. So this is kind of like just the topic that I want to cover today. A lot of people have asked me about it. It is a problem that we as clergy see. It is a problem that parish councils see and other volunteer programs where there is a lack of volunteerism and a lack of support, both from a volunteer point of view and from a financial point of view. And this is one of the trends that we see. So I do hope that we can reverse that. I do hope that this will not continue to go in that direction, but that people will kind of re-engage with a parish that they like, a parish that they feel comfortable with, preferably a parish that's close by to them, and that they will stay there with their families and they will help grow that particular community. That's all I have for today. I will see all of you in a couple of weeks. Till then, take care and God bless.